Calling this workshop meeting of the Commonwealth Transportation Board to order. And the first item of the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll join me. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started on our regular agenda here this morning, it's really great to be in Danville and in this area of Pennsylvania. And we spent a little time at Brookneal yesterday, drove a little bit through the district a little bit, and just a great part of the country, and appreciate all the hospitality down here. And as I say that, it makes me think of our board member Linda Green, because she is the most hospitable person I can imagine. And so, Linda, I'd like to offer you an opportunity to say a few words and tell us about this place we're in and your relationship and so forth. So if you'll oblige us, we'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for making the trip to Danville today. A place that's very near and dear to my heart, but near to a lot of hearts in recent years. This is an area that was decimated with the loss of tobacco, textiles, and furniture, but didn't roll up the carpets. It did quite the opposite and set a strategy that's really built around workforce development. This was in the time when the Tobacco Commission came about in the Commonwealth. This is an example of one of the differences that the Tobacco Commission made. They invested in things like higher education institutes. So in 2004, the Institute opened the doors. So since then, products that you may have heard of, like GoTech, which starts STEM education in middle school, is spreading across Virginia. Through some of this funding. Probably 75% of the time that we spend attracting an industry will be about telling them of how we do skilled workforce. And I wish you had time to tour today, because you'd see everything from programs that start in the middle school, teaching people skill standards like girls doing laser welding. So, Laura, you'd really appreciate seeing those young girls out-weld the guys on the laser simulators.
Every day.
But it goes to computer numerical control machines that were specially built by Haas because of the work going on here, Raspberry Pi coding. All of the skill sets that a region would need are taught at 11-year-old. And then it goes up, dual enrollment in the high schools then, quite unique. We have waiting lists to get into the skill programs in our career and technical schools. This has led to the development of the prototype for the Department of Defense for training the Navy, and now it's spreading to other branches as well. If you could see the buildings here today, and we don't have time, but we'll drive by them, you'll see a myriad of buildings that are built for specialized training, one of which is the Department of Defense's new training program for customized curriculum development for skilled trades. So they do CNC, additive manufacturing, non-destructive testing, welding, all of this done in 4-month concentrated programs that run 24 hours a day, round the clock. So when a company comes here and they ask me, how can I do customized training? How can you tell me we could do it? I can say, well, I can tell you what the Department of Defense selected. They're doing the curriculum development here that will go across the nation for the Navy. So it's not what you expect to see. It's not what our companies expect to see, but it's led to over 8,000 jobs being announced over the last 5 years. We have more certified sites prepared and ready with due diligence done at tier 4 and 5 levels than the rest of the state combined. So there's been a huge commitment by this area and a strategy to develop the workforce, develop the sites to make a difference for the future. That's resulted in $3.2 billion of projects in the last years. So it's an area that really has invested in its workforce. And one of the people who can attest to this, because he works with it every day, is the Danville City Manager, Ken Larkin, and he's going to formally welcome you to Danville.
Morning, welcome, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Secretary Miller, for this opportunity. And on behalf of the mayor of Danville, who asked me to speak today because he couldn't be here, I'm very honored that you have decided to have your meeting here in Danville. My understanding, it's been some time since maybe you've had a meeting in Danville, so it is just an incredible honor that you've decided to pick our region and our city to hold this meeting. I'll let you know just a little bit about me. I won't be long, but I've never lived anywhere longer than I've lived in Danville, Virginia. In my career in local government, it's about half in Danville. Not quite yet, but it will be over half in a couple years. And so I've grown to love this community. I've seen some struggles at the beginning, and I've seen us come out of those struggles and see some incredible growth. And I think you'll see a little bit later in the tour that we're on the cusp of what we believe to be transformational growth in our community. And a huge part of enabling us to do that is the work of this board and the support that we've received in various transportation projects that have helped us to make that happen. So I want to also thank Chris Winstead and the Lynchburg team and his staff for the great collaborative effort between him, the MPO, this board, our staff in Public Works. We have, like I said, I've been in local government for a long time, and I'm not aware, in my experience in various local governments, mostly in North Carolina, of such a great collaborative effort that we have with our local VDOT team to help us get some projects done that enable our community to be well-served by their transportation needs. So I want to thank you so much for that, and we're just very grateful for you to be here and for all the support you provided us. And I look forward to seeing you all later on the tour. So I'll come back here a little bit after lunch, and I'll be on the bus with you, and we'll talk a little bit more about what's going on in Danville and our region. So thank you very much.
Larkin, appreciate you being here with us. Mr. Winstead.
Good morning, Mr. Secretary. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Chris Winstead, and I get to work as the Lynchburg District Engineer. In this capacity, I also get to work with what I believe is the best CTP member in the state, Ms. Linda Green. Sure, I'm certainly biased, but she's one of the most hardworking folks I've run across. She's a great advocate for our district and, of course, for the Commonwealth as a whole. And she's kind, genuine, and proactive and engaged, and I very much appreciate that. I'm also blessed to be surrounded by amazing, talented people, and one of those folks is Lynn Stevens. We were able to snag Lynn. He's our communications manager. We were able to snag him from Fox News. He was the anchor in the Roanoke market, and he has prepared a video that will give you a brief description of our district, our people, and at the end of that, I have just a few additional remarks. So with that, we'll cue the video up, and again, thanks to Lynn.
Welcome to VDOT's Lynchburg District. 5,300 square miles, more than 15,000 lane miles of roads, about 2,000 bridges and large culverts, 10 counties, 2 cities that nearly 400,000 people call home. One interesting fact, we are seeing a growing number of Amish coming to live and work here, communities that rely almost exclusively on horse and buggy transportation. Our district has a rich mix of beautiful terrain and exciting attractions, from the eastern edge of Smith Mountain Lake to High Bridge Trail, from the sunshine side of the Blue Ridge Mountains to Virginia International Raceway. And here in Danville, the Dan River, Caesars Casino and Resort, and just down the road, the Southern Virginia mega site at Berry Hill, the biggest in Virginia and among the biggest in the Southeast United States. In November, we held a ribbon cutting for the Harville-Saunders Parkway, 2.4 miles of new 2-lane roadway that provides easy access to the mega site. The following day, Microporous, a battery separator, broke ground on its new $1.4 billion facility with plans to create approximately 2,000 jobs. The Lynchburg District is home to many quality institutions of higher education, including Hampton-Sydney College, Randolph College, Sweetbriar College, Averett University, Liberty University, Longwood University, the University of Lynchburg, and Virginia University of Lynchburg, as well as Danville Community College and Central Virginia Community College. Major employers include Goodyear, Framatome, BWXT, Genworth Financial, J. Crew, Frito-Lay, Delta Star, Hitachi, and Buitoni. More than 620 VDOT employees are responsible for building and maintaining our district's highway system. They embody our VDOT values as they accomplish our VDOT mission to plan, deliver, operate, maintain, and support a transportation system that is safe, enables easy movement of people and goods, enhances the economy, and improves our quality of life. And they are getting the job done. Our people are dedicated to safely delivering results for our customers, as demonstrated by regularly meeting or exceeding our infrastructure condition assessment and project development and delivery goals. We also regularly volunteer to serve elsewhere in the state during inclement weather events. We are passionate about safety, and we are very competitive. Last fiscal year, we won the statewide Safety Excellence Award program, the pinnacle award for safety culture in our department, and we are striving for a repeat this fiscal year. We partner with organizations like Yovaso and Virginia State Police to push critical safety messages. And we utilize social media and traditional media to push our own calls for safer driving.
See that sign? Respect it.
Respect it.
We are committed to safe, efficient, quality transportation. Welcome to the Lynchburg District. We hope you enjoy visiting as much as we enjoy serving it.
Again, thank you, Lynn Stevens. I appreciate that very much. Yes, let's give him a round of applause. Thank you. Like I said, I get to work with some amazing people, and you can see we get results, and we're passionate about it. Just a few things I want to share. While Lynchburg District does not have any interstates, our district has the 4th largest road inventory of the 9 districts. I'm pleased to tell you that our vacancy rate is 2.41%, among the lowest in the state. We are a good place to work. Our employee demographics represent a healthy distribution. We have approximately 44% Gen X, 33% millennials, 14% boomers, 8% Gen Zs. Approximately 14% of our staff are minorities. 18% of our folks are eligible to retire in 5 years based on age. And that highlights for us the importance of transferring knowledge and building the bench for not only talent today, but for tomorrow. Our people are amazing at finding solutions and serving our citizens using our VDOT values, and it's an honor to work alongside them and represent them today. We certainly collaborate with our 2 MPOs, the Danville MPO and the Central Virginia TPO. In addition, we work with 5 planning district commissions, and of course our 2 cities, Danville and Lynchburg, and numerous towns in 10 counties. Our draft 6-year improvement program for Lynchburg District totals over $619 million across the 6 years with 104 projects total. I also want to just add that highway safety is an ongoing focus for us, just as it is across the entire department. In 2024, across the Commonwealth, about 2 people perished every day due to traffic crashes on our network. For that same period, within Lynchburg District, we experienced 1 person perishing every 4.5 days. So this is one of the reasons that we choose to work here and to make a difference, to drive those numbers down. Of those fatal crashes, the most frequent category in our district involves road departures. We install rumble strips, and we strive to improve intersections. We develop and deliver our projects on time, on budget, to get them out to serve our citizens, and we keep our roadways and our bridges in good repair. But engineering is only part of the solution. For example, in 2023, 85 people perished on our roadways within our district. 48% of them were not wearing seatbelts, 49% of them were speeding, and 32% of them were alcohol related. So I want to thank Secretary Miller, our commissioner, and the entire CTB for your continued focus on supporting highway safety. As I wrap up, we continue to always think about growing our culture of safety, especially when we're in a new place, a new building. So if you would just bear with me, I want to provide a brief safety summary. The exits, of course, are right back out the way you came in. There is an AED unit located on the left side of the elevator shaft right out the door. Heaven forbid if we need it, but that's where it is. And there are fire extinguishers located at the front desk. Always important, I think, to be aware of those. So we want to ensure everybody has a safe, enjoyable time here. Thank you for allowing me to serve. Back to you. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Winstead. You have set the bar very high for the rest of your colleagues. So the next district we end up in, somebody's got to do some work, because that was pretty darn cool. Lynn, where's Lynn? Lynn, can you stand up, please? Really good work putting Hampton-Sydney College as the first institution. I'm not sure it's because it's the oldest or not, but I liked it being first, so good work there. Yeah, I did. It's very good. No, but what y'all do here is fantastic. And what the city manager talked about collaboration, it's fantastic collaboration here. You know, they're great people here. It's a beautiful place. You know, it's a big district, but it's really neat from one end to the other. And the collaboration is really important. And I'll tell you one of the things that the governor has done with us in the cabinet is, and I shouldn't use the word require, but it's true. We're all involved in economic development, right? All of us, and particularly transportation. And so you can't have one, you know, you can't do one without the other. I was on the phone this morning talking about that with somebody. And so I'm very knowledgeable. I serve on the Business Ready Sites Committee that approves some of this and sends money different places. And so we all sort of have our hands in the economic development, the workforce training, which is all part of that. And so it's just great to see what's happened here, because y'all have done it as well as anybody. And I just encourage you to keep it up. We're going to keep helping you as best we can, and but you've done great work, so thank you very much. Linda?
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about the funding of this place? I know the Tobacco Commission was a piece, but you got some other elements of that, and I think that's important for folks to just know a little bit about.
Thank you. So this came together with funding from the Tobacco Commission being the main seed, but also there was a group called the Future of the Piedmont that were the brain trust and the leaders that came together and said there's got to be a new direction for this region, and it's got to be built around workforce. It's got to be a higher skill worker. With that, they sought state funding. The state higher ed centers, there are 5 in the state, all get some operational funding from the Commonwealth. They sought federal funding for grants, they sought state funding for grants, and the Tobacco Commission funding, but all the localities, Danville and Pennsylvania formed a regional industrial facilities authority during that time. They own not just the property that this is owned and committed to this facility, but also 4 industrial parks. So those are jointly owned, sharing revenue and expenses. So it's been a long level of cooperation from leaders. And I say that because any of you that remember the bitter annexation fight that went on between Danville and Pennsylvania, it changed the legislation around annexation. So it is incredible that then they came together to fund together and to support together this kind of facility and this kind of difference. It's resulted in building 2 large mega sites. You'll see one today, and it's changing the trajectory of jobs where it used to be $20,000 to $30,000 jobs. That return on investment's now $50,000 to $100,000, and it's changing the skill level. Where it was brain drain, people leaving the area, now they're actually coming into the area for the jobs. Also, the Navy has added their Center of Additive Excellence here on the campus. So just unusual things because of the development in the workforce. They continue to fund together between Danville and Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and the collaborative nature about it sort of reminds me of transportation. Takes a lot of elements sometimes to get things to work. And so y'all done great work here, and we look forward to applauding continued success. So thank you. The first item on our distributed agenda is item number 1. It's the Commuter Choice FY 26-27 grants. And Mr. Todd Horsley is going to start us off and involve some of his colleagues. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, good morning. So I'm here today with Andrew DeVetter from the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission to provide our annual briefing on NVTC's Commuter Choice Program recommendations.
Is Daniel here too?
Excuse me?
Daniel and Andrew both here, right?
Just Andrew.
Just Andrew.
Daniel couldn't make it today.
Daniel didn't make it today.
So NVT manages biannual commuter choice funding programs for 2 express lane corridors in Northern Virginia, the I-395 at 95 corridor and the I-66 inside the Beltway corridor. This year, NVTC solicited and reviewed applications for commuter choice funding in the I-395 and 95 corridor for fiscal years 2026 and 2027. And so next year, we will be back before you to review recommendations on a new 2-year funding program for the I-66 commuter choice program, just like we did last year.
Maybe.
All right. So, but for today, I'll just provide a brief.
Went too far.
Yep. For today, I'll provide a brief overview of the I-395 95 commuter choice program, its requirements, and how DRPT has worked with NVTC over the last several months to get us to this point today. So there are 3 express lane facilities in Northern Virginia that generate revenues for transit and other multimodal improvements. For the I-66 outside the Beltway corridor, so think Capitol Beltway west to Gainesville, the operator of those express lanes, which is Express Mobility Partners, provides an annual transit investment payment to the Commonwealth as required by its master agreement with VDOT. Those funds are transferred to DRPT, and then we select projects and services for funding that will benefit toll payers of that corridor. And we include those funding recommendations in our annual 6-year improvement program, which you will approve next month, hopefully. So for I-66 inside the Beltway, so think Capitol Beltway east to Arlington and Potomac River, VDOT actually manages and collects the tolls for that express lanes facility. So VDOT provides an annual transit payment to NVTC. NVTC solicits applications and recommends projects for funding as part of its I-66 commuter choice program. DRPT works with NVTC throughout the process and brings a final recommended program of projects to the CTV for approval as part of DRPT's 6-year improvement program. But for today, again, we're talking about I-395 and 95 commuter choice, and that program works very similar to the I-66 commuter choice program, except for the operator of the express lanes, which is Transurban. They provide the annual transit investment payment to VDOT, and then VDOT transfers those funds to DRPT, and DRPT works with NVTC during its competitive selection process to bring a final recommended program of projects to the CTB for approval in our SIP.
Todd, the visual looks like you have a racetrack there. Is that saying like the express lanes are racetracks? Is that what is that?
We taled about that internally.
What is all that about?
And we decided to keep it because those express lanes do speed up traffic.
Got it.
So one distinction of the I-395 and 95 commuter choice program that I need to make up front is that in addition to NVTC, the Potomac and Rappahannock Transportation Commission, also known as PRTC, and there is a lot of acronyms today, PRTC is also a party to the MOA that governs the annual transit payment from that corridor, the I-395 corridor. The I-395, I-95 annual...
Folks, everybody understands, that's just, there are 2 transit organizations, and one's further north and one's further south, and so on 395, we have 2 of them involved.
Yeah, NVTC is basically Fairfax, Arlington, and Loudoun counties, and then the cities of Alexandria, Fairfax, and Falls Church. PRTC is Prince William, Stafford, and Spotsylvania County, and the cities of Fredericksburg, Manassas, and Manassas Park. So the 395 and 95 annual transit investment payment is governed by an MOA between the CTB, VDOT, DRPT, NVTC, and PRTC, and that was most recently amended in 2022. The MOA states that NVTC and PRTC will select and administer projects approved by the CTB. However, the MOA also allows NVTC and PRTC to agree on an alternate mechanism for the management of ATI funding, or annual transit investment funding, and selecting projects to be recommended to the CTB. So NVTC and PRTC have actually entered into an agreement between themselves, which they did in 2019, that designated NVTC as the recipient of all of the ATI funding, dispersed to the commissions, and they had established the process for project selection. So the commissions agreed that NVTC will manage the project selection process on behalf of both commissions. There's a program advisory commission or committee that is comprised of members of both commissions that receive updates during the year on the selection process, and both commissions are required to approve the recommended program of projects to the CTB. So all three of the express lanes facilities or corridors in Northern Virginia that generate revenues for transit and other multimodal improvements have similar program improvement goals, and projects selected for annual transit investment funding must contribute to at least one of those improvement goals. And most projects actually contribute to more than one and sometimes all of the program improvement goals. And so here are the three program improvement goals for the I-395 corridor. And those are to maximize person throughput through the corridor or in the corridor, to implement multimodal improvements that improve mobility along the corridor and support new and diverse travel choices, and to enhance transportation safety and travel reliability. So more specifically, each ATI-funded project must meet all four of the project criteria that are listed on this slide. So all projects must reasonably relate to or benefit the toll-paying users of the I-395 project. All projects must have the capacity to attain one or more of the improvement goals. All projects must be one of the following types of multimodal transportation improvements serving the corridor. There's actually 8 types of multimodal improvements listed in the MOA. Those include things like commuter bus service, local bus service, TDM projects, transportation demand management, improvements to Metro and VRE, park and ride lots, highway improvements, some other things. But there's 8 total in the MOA. And then there's also a limitation on the total amount of ATI funding that can be spent on operating costs over the program. And I think Andrew will probably explain that a little bit more than I can, or better than I can. And then finally, all projects must demonstrate that the ATI-funded projects will be in compliance with all applicable laws, rules, and regulations, and have received or will receive all required regulatory approvals. So NVTC provides DRPT with updates on their selection process throughout the year, but ensuring that each project meets all of the project criteria is really where DRPT typically does the most work with NVTC during the year. So in addition to a staff review of each project, DRPT works with the Office of Attorney General on a review of the recommended projects and their compliance with the project criteria. And the OAG did not identify any issues with any of the projects being recommended by NVTC for the FY 2026-2027 I-395 Commuter Choice Funding Program. So this slide just shows the roles of each Commonwealth entity with regard to the Commuter Choice Program. For VDOT, VDOT plays a significant role interacting with Transurban and the actual management of the 395 corridor, but for the annual transit investment, VDOT's primary role is just to be a transfer of the ATI funds it receives to DRPT. DRPT provides technical assistance to NVTC and PRTC during selection of the ATI-funded projects. We provide the CTB with an analysis of whether the proposed ATI-funded projects meets the requirements of the MOA, and that includes our coordination of the legal review by the OAG's office. We do this joint presentation with NVTC that we're doing today, and then we also transfer the funds that we receive from VDOT to NVTC. And then the CTB, your role is really consideration and approval of ATI-funded projects in DRPT's 6-year improvement program. And then finally, before turning this over to Andrew, this slide provides information on how the annual transit investment funds are budgeted by DRPT. So there's an Exhibit A to the MOA between the CTB, VDOT, DRPT, NVTC, PRTC that includes an annual transit investment payment schedule for 69 years. And I think that is through 2088, if I'm counting correctly. So the schedule shows the exact amount of the ATI payment from Transurban to VDOT in each year, and that is the amount that DRPT budgets for transfer to NVTC, and that NVTC then uses to determine the amount of new funding available for each biannual commuter choice funding cycle. So using the FY '26 and '27 amounts from that Exhibit A, there is $35,225,687 available for the FY '26-27 biannual funding cycle. And then if you're interested in tracing the ATI funds through DRPT's budget, the line item codes are listed on this slide. And with that, I will hand the clicker over to Andrew DeVetter for his presentation, kind of on the specifics of the program.
Mr. Secretary,
Yes, sir, Mr. Lawson.
just curious, how do we know our numbers through 2088? These are budgeted numbers, or?
So there is, like I said, the MOA that's between these 5 parties. It actually includes an exhibit, and it lists an annual transit investment payment. It's actually specified for each year over 69 years. It started with a base, and then it escalates by 2.5% each year, literally over those 69 years. So we just know the year that corresponds with FY '26 and '27, and that becomes the amount that we know that we're going to get in new funding from VDOT that can be budgeted for the program.
Mr. Lawson, it's based on a projection, and it can be variable, I believe, Mr. Horsley. It could, depending on what happens in the future, it could change, but it's what's expected.
This is from toll revenue, actual,
From toll revenues, what Transurban collects.
okay.
Yes, it's toll revenue.
I assume, but I'll just ask, there's some kind of a split to pay debt service and other things? Or is this the gross number that's coming in every year?
This is what comes into VDOT that then flows to them.
All right.
After expenses, that's just a cash payment. Yeah.
Thank you.
And you know, I will say this because it still amazes me. So think about what he just said. It goes out to 2080 something, right? 60 years from now. You really think it's going to look the same? You think 60 years from now, you know, we're just going to be motoring down that 395 in our 2016 F-150 and like paying a toll 60 years from now? You know, I'd love to be here 60 years from now just to see it. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen, but folks, this is going to be radically different 60 years from now. And it just is. So it's interesting as we have these contracts that go out that far because it's not going to work like that in 60 years. All right, Mr. Horsley. Mr. DeVetter. Welcome, sir.
All right. Thank you for having me. My name is Andrew DeVetter. Can you all hear me okay? All
Yes,
right.
sir, we can.
I am the Director of Programs and Policy with the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission. I'm here to follow up on Mr. Horsley on talking about the Commuter Choice Program. Oops. There we go. So a little bit of background here. As Todd mentioned, Commuter Choice reinvests a portion of locally generated toll revenues from the I-395, 95, and 66 corridors into transit and other multimodal improvements that move more people more efficiently across each corridor. Simply put, this program takes locally produced toll revenues and it uses them to improve transit and provide transit services that benefit toll payers by ensuring that people can find easy alternatives to paying those tolls, which can sometimes be quite high. The program began in the 66 corridor in 2017 and was expanded to the 395-95 corridor in 2019. As Todd mentioned, 395-95 Commuter Choice is a partnership between NVTC, PRTC, and the Commonwealth, with much of NVTC's role spelled out in that MOA that he mentioned. So the program funds a wide variety of project types that move people to work, school, and wherever they're headed on 2 of Northern Virginia's most heavily traveled and congested corridors. Commuter Choice has funded new bus routes, both express and local buses. It has supported additional frequency on additional bus routes, enhanced rail stations, constructed new park and ride lots, and supported a variety of access to transit projects. Since 2017, Commuter Choice has funded nearly $178 million in projects across Northern Virginia that have brought significant regional benefits. As I mentioned previously, Commuter Choice funds are 100% locally generated by users of the I-395-95 express lanes, and they're reinvested back into projects that benefit toll payers through reduced congestion and improved travel options and mobility. So as Todd mentioned in his slides, there is a rather complex governance arrangement on the I-395-95 program between NVTC, PRT, and CTB that's spelled out in that 2019 Memorandum of Agreement. So I'm going to briefly touch on each of these roles. He covered them in detail, but I just want to give a high-level overview. So starting at the top, CTB's role is to approve an annual program of projects that is developed by NVTC, provided that NVTC follows program development provisions that are outlined in the MOA. CTB also receives and reviews the Commuter Choice Annual Report, which is sent to CTB in October of each year. VDOT's role here is primarily financial. VDOT transfers toll revenue received to DRPT, who in turn transfers that toll revenue to NVTC. DRPT also plays an important role in conducting an initial eligibility review with NVTC staff, and they help coordinate final eligibility review with staff from the Office of the Attorney General. DRPT also forwards the final program of projects to CTB for inclusion in the SIP. NVTC itself is responsible for administering the Commuter Choice Program for I-395-95. That includes selecting projects for funding through a competitive application process, soliciting public feedback through a public comment period and a public hearing, monitoring the effectiveness of funded projects, and developing that annual report I mentioned previously. For 395-95, both commissions, PRTC and NVTC, must approve the final program of projects for transmission to the CTB, but PRTC has delegated the authority for NVTC to manage the day-to-day aspects of the program through a separate MOA. NVTC receives guaranteed annual payments to fund commuter choice that Todd covered. NVTC will receive a payment of approximately $17 million for commuter choice projects, and that number escalates, as he mentioned, 2.5% annually. And then at the bottom here, we have the role of our local jurisdictions and transit operators, and that is to apply for funding and implement projects. Those grantees, once they are awarded commuter choice funding, have 2 years to obligate funding for their project and 5 years to fully draw down funds. NVTC takes its role in monitoring the effectiveness of projects selected for funding seriously. We require quarterly and annual reports from grantees on ridership and other information. All commuter choice annual reports since the program began in 2017, along with other technical memoranda and information, is available on our website. So I'm going to touch upon the program development process for this year's program. So this cycle, NVTC opened up a call for projects in October with applications due in December. We received applications for 15 new projects requesting $37.5 million in commuter choice funding. After we undertook that initial eligibility screen with DRPT staff, one application was deemed ineligible for commuter choice funding, and it did not proceed. The initial eligibility screen ensures that applications are meeting the 4 eligibility project criteria that are outlined in the MOA, and I think Todd mentioned those previously. After removing that ineligible application, the remaining 14 applications were carried through to the scoring process, and those scores were finalized and published in February. I do want to take a brief, very brief detour here to talk about scoring. In the commuter choice scoring methodology, and there's a slide on this in the appendix, technical merit accounts for 75% of the scoring, cost effectiveness accounts for 20%, and the remaining 5% goes to applicant preference. Person throughput is the most significant aspect of scoring. We then held a public comment period in March and April with a public hearing on April 24th. NVTC received final project eligibility concurrence from the Office of the Attorney General's office in May, confirming that those 14 remaining applications met the eligibility criteria outlined in the MOA. And then on May 1st, both commissions met. They were briefed on the Joint Commission Working Group recommendation on projects. That's something that Todd mentioned. We have an advisory committee of commissioners. This group was made up of 3 NVTC and 3 PRTC commissioners, and the commission advanced that recommendation at its May meeting. Then on June 5th, both commissions will meet again, and they'll be asked to take action in approving the transmittal of the final program of projects to CTB for inclusion in the 6-year SIP. And that would be slated for CTB's June 25th meeting. And once approved, projects can use funding as soon as July 1. This slide here shows sort of a big picture look at the program of projects, and then we have additional information in further slides. So if we look at the draft program of projects in total, we can see the benefits provided to Northern Virginia. The draft program includes 15 projects recommended for funding, including 12 enhanced bus service projects, 1 bus rapid transit line, 1 new bus route, 1 rail station, and 1 rail station enhancement project. So taken together, it's estimated that these projects will result in nearly 3,800 weekday trips, resulting in 22 million fewer annual vehicle miles traveled, and save over $2.4 million in annual fuel costs. So this slide here shows the first of 2 slides that are a summary of this year's draft program projects, including the proposed funding award and application score. I have more detailed slides available on each of these projects in the appendix, including maps with a little bit of additional information. So for this program round, proposed grantees include Fairfax County, OmniRide, WMATA, Dash, which is Alexandria, Arlington County, VRE, the Virginia Railway Express, and proposed projects in this year's program are located as far south as Stafford County. Projects in this year's program will provide a new and enhanced commuter bus service to key destinations like the Pentagon in downtown DC, will increase frequency on local routes that connect to job centers in Arlington, Alexandria, and Fairfax and Prince William counties, and will help fund lengthening VRE's Leland Road station platform to allow for boarding of longer trains. It also provides funding for the construction of a future 7.4-mile bus rapid transit line in Fairfax County. This is the second $10 million award from that project. It was initially awarded in the FY 24-25 round, so we'll receive $20 million in total. And this project was scored in the FY 24-25 round. So this is the second slide showing that summary. These are the remaining projects that are being recommended for funding. The total proposed funding amount in this year's program is $39.5 million. And one brief note here on bus service enhancement project continuations. NVTC funds bus service enhancement projects and all operating projects 2 years at a time. So grantees must secure funding for each 2-year cycle. And that quarterly and annual reporting I mentioned previously comes into play here. It informs both NVTC staff and applicants how their projects are performing. So if they should reapply in future rounds, this information can help inform their person throughput estimates. If their project is not performing, it can also help inform whether or not they should reapply in future rounds. Again, as a reminder, all service continuation applications are rescored each cycle. Each cycle is competitive, so there are no guarantees for operating funding. And I think Todd briefly alluded to that operating cap. Should this program be included, that 9-year rolling average for the operating expenses would be 40.3%, so underneath the 50% cap, and it's something that we continue to monitor in future rounds.
Could you repeat that? I didn't hear that.
If this were to be included, it would be 40.3%. So for public comment, we held an online public comment period from March 12th to April 11th. With members of the public able to submit comments via an online survey and email. 458 submissions were received. Additionally, NVTC held a public hearing on April 24th to provide additional opportunities for members of the public to comment on the draft program. So for key upcoming dates and next steps, today we're briefing you on the draft program of projects, and we appreciate the opportunity to be here in Danville. On June 5th, both commissions will be asked to approve transmitting that final program to CTB for inclusion in the FY 26 to 2030 SIP, which is slated for CTB's June 25th meeting. And just as a reminder, CTB's role here is to approve a program of projects developed by NVTC, provided that NVTC follows the program development provisions that are outlined in the MOA that both Todd and I have covered. And once approved, funding for new projects is available on July 1. With that, I'm happy to take any questions. I have additional information in the appendix slides, but I do want to stop for any questions or direction from the chairman.
Mr. Stant.
Did I read that right? There was only one rail project selected amongst all those that were on those 2 pages?
One rail project?
One rail project.
That's correct. It's a platform extension at the Leland Road Virginia Railway Express
Any
station.
reason why rail is only one project out of 20 or however many were selected?
I believe this was the only rail project that was submitted. I believe an earlier round, or earlier, back in the fall, I think VRE was thinking about an additional rail project, but they ended up only submitting for one.
There was a lack of applications.
Yes. I think VRE pursues, VRE is our primary rail applicant. They pursue a host of funding sources, both federal, state, regional, and local. Commuter Choice is one of many pieces of the funding pie that they help use to put together all of their various capital projects.
Anybody else? Yes, sir, Mr. Laird.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. If we approve this in our next meeting, does the amount have to equal what is available? The amount funded equal what is available?
Oh, yes, it's just within, yes. So the amount of funding request, the amount of funding included in the program is within, in this draft program is within the amount of available funding, yes.
Thank you.
So, anyone else? Mr. DeVetter, so help me with this. Sort of goes to Mr. Laird's question in a way. So on page 7, it says our 26 and 27 revenues available is 35.2.
Yeah.
And on page 7, where it totals the program of projects, it's 39,000,005. So we got one that's 35.2 and one that's 39.5. So can somebody help me with that?
So we've got 39,
39.2, 39.5,
okay, and where's the 35?
page 7.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm bouncing around.
It's all right, you're getting there.
I'm sorry, can you point me to the 35?
Go back. Page, it says page 7 in mine.
Oh, is it
It's
in
in
Todd's
Todd's
slide?
slide, sorry.
Okay.
Slide, Todd's slides, it says ATI revenues
Oh,
specified in Exhibit A.
I believe, up or down? Up. So I believe the discrepancy is likely that there's the amount per the MOA that MVTC receives each year that escalates. This program has had some project cancellations. And so
Plussing
that,
some stuff up.
and right, and so
So
then
there was
that,
balance entries in here.
and so that funding is available in future rounds. So I think that's likely what we're seeing
We
here.
got 35 million in new money.
Yeah,
And we're spending 39 total because you had a balance entry of 4 or something like that.
right.
Second question, and I can't get there this way, but it's intriguing to me, because I think one of the things I've always wanted to see in transit, and I'm a big believer in transit, I just want it to be as efficient as it can possibly be, and I am always, in many places, it doesn't appear that way because they're large vehicles with few people in them at times, too often. So when you gave me the stats, and I know it doesn't work like this, I tried to get there, but you gave me the stats that showed how many people a weekday this sort of impacted in terms of movement. And I'm trying to get to that page. It's like 3,800 a day. Okay, on page 5 of your deck, 3,800 people moved each weekday. And I presume that's associated with the projects,
That's
right?
correct.
But some of them are capital and some of them are enhancement and some of them are actually, they're all different things. Because what I want to do is I want to take 3,800 and get 1 million trips a year and divide that into 39 million and say, okay, each trip is $39, right? And in essence, that's true if I put all those other things in there. But it's maybe not a true reflection of really what's happening. At the end of the day, I think we can do a better job if we understand what a trip costs per person and how we can sort of manage that. And also with an eye towards the capacity of the vehicle versus the typical usage. And sometimes, you got to shave off the ends of the bell curve, right? Just because you could put 55 on for 2 trips out of 100, well, you don't do that. And if 98 of your trips will do with 30, then I'll do 30, and those trips won't happen. I'll deal with them a different way. So I just would encourage you, as you've got a lifetime in this. You're passionate about it, you do it. Encourage you to continue to think about those things. Because at the end of the day, there's only so much money, right? And the rap that transit gets sometimes is it's not efficient, right? So the more efficient, when it works, it's really efficient, right? But if I got a 55-passenger bus and 6 people on it riding around, give me a 25-passenger bus, right? Do something to make it cheaper, because I can do more of it then. I can take more people. And so I'd encourage you to continue to do that. I know this doesn't work the way I wanted it to work. I just wanted to do the math.
Okay.
But that's the math. It's 1 million trips, and we're talking $39 million. So if you just sort of did that, you'd say, okay, well, I affected 1 million trips at $39 a piece, and then sort of do that and compute that through, right? So more of that's better, I think. I wish you will. By the way, the agenda has you from MBTA. Sorry to do that to you. It's MBTC.
No worries.
But thank you. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am, Ms. Dunlop.
Yes, Mr. Secretary, the role of the CTB in this process is to approve the entire package or to not approve the entire package?
Well, we could. I mean, I think we could cherry pick if we wanted to. We could tell them what we wanted to do or wouldn't do. We wouldn't approve certain projects. We could do that. But then they would have to go back through their whole process. And at the end of the day, if it meets the criteria, that's what we're supposed to apply, right? If we don't like the particular project, but it meets the criteria, it meets the criteria. And our ruler is the criteria. If we want to change the criteria, then that's a different discussion. But we wouldn't change it during the process. That wouldn't be right. Right? Yes, sir, Mr. Griffin.
Yeah, I just want to thank DRPT and VTC for putting all this together. They did a great job of debriefing me prior to this.
Really good job.
They're doing a good job. Really good materials, well presented, and underscore the fact that statutorily our job is just to determine whether or not they followed their process. Then, if they did, we should approve it. So, and the Secretary is 100% correct. We can talk about changing or potentially changing what the process, but at this point, they've gone through everything they're supposed to go through. They've run through the process they should. So we really just have an up or down vote.
Yeah, I mean, if we found one didn't meet the criteria, we could say we don't believe this meets the criteria, and we'd say why. We could do that. But our job is to judge it against the criteria, not against some other desire or thought, right? So good. I think this is a great presentation, more fulsome than we've had in a while on this, and I think it's helpful to sort of understand how they work. So basically, at the end of the day, we do a toll concession in Virginia, whether we did it with ourselves or did somebody else, and we put a transit piece in it. And we say we're going to take some of the revenue, and we're going to put it to transit so that more people aren't in the cars, less people are in the cars, and we can be more efficient, right? That's the whole game. So we split that off, whether it's an outside entity, a third party, or whether it's VDOT, and we fund it into this process. And we've got some smart people at a couple of commissions up in Northern Virginia that work through all this, PRTC, MBTC, and the directors involved in all that. And they work through their magic and figure out what the best projects are, and here's the criteria, and here's all laid out in code and in policy, and then they put it through their washing machine, and here it is, and spits out what they have, and then we look at it and say, does it meet the criteria? If it does, we say, okay, proceed on. If it doesn't, we say, no, it doesn't here or there or whatever, and we don't approve it. And at the end of the day, that was what the 35-minute presentation said. But it was much better than I just did. So thank you very much. Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming. By the way, a little bit different community down here than what you're dealing with up there, isn't it? I love it when we go to meetings out, and why to go to Danville? Because it's Danville. That's where we come to Danville.
It was a scenic drive. I'm used to.
Isn't that beautiful? Did you come down
I'm used
20
to 29,
come
so
down
it was,
29,
it was a
you know?
revisit for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great, and I love it when we go to meetings, some places, and they say, you know, this intersection is backed up twice a day, at least 8 or 10 minutes. It takes me 3 or 4 cycles to get through that light. I'm thinking, oh, okay. Okay. Let me take you up to my friends on 395. Let's experience a little bit of that. So it's all relative to where you live, and this is a great place to be. So
Absolutely.
I'm glad you're able to join us.
Thank
sir.
you for having me.
All right, the next item on the agenda is agenda number 2. This is FY 2026 Urban and Arlington / Henrico Street Maintenance Payments. Ms. Angel Deem, welcome, Ms.
Morning.
Deem. Hope you're well today.
Yes, I am. Thank you. Mr. Secretary, members of the board, I don't know if I'm supposed to click this. There we go. I'm pleased to provide to you this morning our annual update to the Urban Maintenance Payment Program for eligible localities as well as for the counties of Arlington and Henrico. So I'll start first with urban maintenance payments as required by the code. VDOT provides street maintenance payments to all cities and towns with populations over 3,500, as well as other towns that are specifically designated in the code. Each year, these localities are required to submit annual additions and deletions to their inventory, and that mileage is submitted to VDOT's Local Assistance Division, and those inventory changes are approved by this board as part of this process. We use that information along with the budget to calculate payments that are made to these localities. The condition of the payments, locally maintained arterial roads are inspected annually by VDOT staff to ensure those routes are being adequately maintained. Payments are calculated based on moving lane miles during peak travel times and are paid out quarterly to the eligible jurisdictions. As with the payment rates, the CTB approves the payment amounts. And for urban localities, those payment rates are based on 2 categories: principal and minor arterial roads and local and collector streets. This past year, or the current fiscal year, FY25, for our 85 urban localities, the total budget was just over $525 million, which provided payment rates of just over $29,000 per lane mile for arterial routes and $17,000 per lane mile for local and collector streets. So the second aspect of the program is for county street maintenance payments. Arlington and Henrico are the only 2 counties that maintain their local or non-primary streets, and we have a maintenance payment program similar to that of what I just discussed with cities and towns. The eligibility requirements are similar. They are established by code, and like the urban program, the CTB establishes the maintenance payments. Unlike the urban program, annual arterial inspections are not required by the code, and there's no differential based on functional classification. Instead, it's based on the total eligible lane miles in those 2 counties. This past year, FY25, we had a budget of $91.4 million for Arlington and Henrico, and that equated to $24,662 for Arlington and $17,945 for Henrico, again, per lane mile. So along with our maintenance payments, there are other quarterly payments that get distributed as part of this program. Beginning in 2012, DMV overweight permit fees have been distributed through the urban maintenance payment process. They are distributed on the basis of lane mileage to localities. And for this past year, that equated to $3.80 per lane mile on top of those maintenance payments that localities received. Beginning in 2005, VDOT also recommended, and this board approved, a set-aside of $1 million to assist the city of Chesapeake with maintenance of their 3 movable bridges. The city of Chesapeake is the only locality that maintains movable structures, and the cost for that maintenance is significantly higher than for other structures. Finally, we also make payments to localities where tax-exempt Virginia Port Authority real estate exists. This is authorized through budget language requiring this board to make payments to jurisdictions in which the Virginia Port Authority owns tax-exempt real estate. And so to do this, $1 million is distributed proportionally based on each port's cargo throughput. And this is applicable to Warren County and the cities of Norfolk, Portsmouth, and Newport News.
I want y'all to think about that for a minute. That's a statutory thing, right? So think about your time that you've been down to the port and you've seen how much land in Norfolk is in the port along the waterfront. And you go across to Portsmouth and you see how much land is on the port on the waterfront, and they get $1 million of revenue for that. I tell you what that would generate if it was taxed regularly. And all the shipbuilding or some of the private shipyards. So it's appreciated, but it's a drop in the bucket to what those localities lose because they can't tax that revenue, can't tax that real estate.
Okay?
Thank you.
So tying this all together, the total budget for urban localities for FY26 is approximately $542.5 million. And as a point of reference, FY25, that budget is $525.1 million. So after accounting for inventory changes that I referenced, the new rates are $30,000 and $30,000 per lane mile, for principal and minor arterials, and about $17,000 per lane mile for collector roads and local streets. And then when we add on top of that the overweight permit fee distribution, that will add $7.69 per lane mile. We also propose to continue the $1 million distribution to Chesapeake, as well as the $1 million distribution to those 4 jurisdictions that have the VPA tax-exempt payments. And then on to the county payments. For FY26, the total budget is $94.4 million. In 25, the current year, that amount is $91.3 million. So for FY26, that equates to a payment rate of just over $25,000 per lane mile for Arlington and $18,000 per lane mile for Henrico. They too will receive the $7.69 per lane mile addition for the overweight permit fee distribution. Okay, so next month we'll bring decision briefs and resolutions for all these payments to the board so that payments can begin the next fiscal year. You'll receive detailed tables that will show you the calculation of these rates for all of the applicable jurisdictions. With that, I'll take any questions.
Yes, sir. Mr. Davis.
Is there something different about the Port of Richmond where is it not tax exempt, and maybe that's why it doesn't receive a payment? It didn't make the list. I'm just asking the question.
I don't recall. I mean, like VIG over in Portsmouth is private, so they're taxed, which is part of the port. I don't believe Richmond is unlike that. I'm not sure what that is, but we look into it. We're basically just a statutory executor here. It's not policy that we're creating. We're just following what we're told to do. And Angel, to that point, all this is pretty much statutorily driven, is it not?
All dictated in the code, yes, sir.
Yes, I mean, these aren't really judgments we're making here at the board. We're basically executing code, right? So when we look at these numbers, they're all, just math that come out of what we're directed to do.
Annually, they're influenced by the growth rate that's applied as well as those inventory changes, so additions or deletions to their system.
But again, that's all fact-based stuff, right? We're not making judgments there. Yes, Ms. Sellers.
How often are the reimbursement rates reviewed?
Annually.
They are reviewed annually?
You
Not
mean
just
the-
to the ports, but for the roads and,
The rates are set, that's what I'm trying to say. The rates are set in code. We don't set the rates. Now, what we do is we keep score. So if there are more roads, then we make that adjustment, right? If there's a change, we make the adjustment. But we don't set the underlying rate. That's all statutorily driven.
and how often does the
Laura,
legislature review that?
Am I misspeaking?
So, sir, we talked about in our recent prep meeting around Arlington and Henrico, which have set rates in the Code of Virginia.
Right.
The cities have a base rate, a program rate, and we grow the program value based on the same rate of growth that we apply in the maintenance program. In recent years, as we supplemented additional maintenance money, we've given the localities a proportional amount of that money. But the changes in inventory with each locality do not influence the rate of growth and the total value of the money available. And so the value of the entire program drives the rate in which we reimburse the localities for each particular road.
Mr. Secretary,
It's top down, basically. Yes, Dr. Smoot.
recall, at least I think I do, that sometime about a year ago, we had to do a budget amendment that was close to $100 million so we could complete the paving work that had been anticipated. Does that relate to this in any way?
Yes, sir, Dr. Smoot. We provided a proportional amount based on what we gave to VDOT as supplementary funding for paving to the cities and to counties.
So what she's saying is that we needed some more money, and when we need some more money, then they get some more money. So basically, our program size drives, they're linked to us, right? And they go as we go. So if we do something for us, then we need to do something for them. Ms. Sellers.
So as we go through this maintenance process and get more performance measures and stuff, this will impact that will impact this as well?
I'm not sure what you're saying, but we have performance measures on pavements across the Commonwealth. And to meet our performance, if it drives more money into maintenance, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
If we drive more money into maintenance in our end, right, for paving and so forth, then there's a impact because they're linked to us that drives more money to them. Does that make sense? Yes, ma'am. Anyone else? Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Y'all ready to keep going? It's going to be about a 30-minute one. Do you need a recess? Anybody need a recess? Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is item 3, Smart Scale 2026, Round 6, the consensus scenario. Ms. Brooke Jackson,
Good.
look who's here.
Am I starting at the end of the presentation? Right? We're starting at the thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Secretary, members
Efficiency.
of the
Where's my
board.
transit people? That's efficient right there. May not be too effective, but is efficient.
So I can give you a little introduction of what I'm going to cover today. So I'm here to present the fiscal year 2026 Smart Scale Round 6 consensus scenario. And what this is a reflection of the work that has been done between the board members, stakeholders, and the public, our applicants, over the past 5 months since we came to you in January to present the staff recommended scenario. This is also coming at a time where we have concluded the spring meetings They have been held in every single district, and we've asked for public input on these projects. And all of the members that are here at the table have heard that from the public, and everything you're going to see is a reflection of that input. And what I'm going to cover is 2 brief slides just showing what the staff recommended scenario was, just to kind of give you an overview, then a quick overview of the consensus scenario.
Let me say something. Everything is not a reflection of the input. Everything took into consideration the input, right? So it's not reflection, and we didn't take the input and say that's what we're doing, but we took the input and thoughtfully considered it.
And after I go through a quick summary of the consensus scenario, I will go through individual proposed changes for each district. We're going to ask for your vote tomorrow on the resolution of the projects that you'll see in this presentation today. All right, with that, I will get into it. And I already
Go back a
skipped.
slide, yeah.
It's a finicky. There is about a 5-second delay on this. There we go. All right, so the staff recommended scenario. We came to you with approximately $1.1 billion of available funds, a little bit less. And that amounted to about $695 million in DGP, which stays within the districts, and $385 million that is statewide, sorted, and allocated on a statewide basis. That's our HPP money. What we ended up being able to fund, because in Smart Scale, we fund until you cannot fully fund the next project, so there will always be money left over at the end of the day once you go through the staff scenario. So we were able to allocate the money to 53 projects, $602 million in DGP, $381 million in HPP, and that left an unallocated amount of $83 million. You'll see it's mostly in DGP, and that's where the focus is in this presentation, is in DGP. There was about $80 million left over, and there were some in every district left over for the members to work on the allocation of those dollars. Additionally, when we came in January, we did show that there were 2 districts, Stanton and Culpeper, that had to use some of their money to fund previous overages on projects. And that'll be important as we're going through this presentation. This is an exact replica of what you saw in January. This is a reminder of how the money was allocated. Step 1, again, is DGP, and that stays within the district. Step 2 is HPP, and that is allocated on a statewide basis. And again, we allocated to 53 projects. So a summary of the consensus scenario. This is, again, implementing the changes and recommended changes to the staff recommended scenario. We ultimately are ending up with 53 projects again, so that's a net zero change. We are unfunding 6 projects in this scenario and funding 6 projects, a net zero. HPP is not being touched in this scenario at all, so we're only going to be talking about the district grant program throughout this presentation. We do still have some unallocated dollars. A lot of that is being held in reserve for future use, whether or not it's a future round of Smart Scale or if there are overages that need to be covered. I know Kim comes up on what seems like a monthly basis to talk about projects that need to use that reserved DGP money. So that will be held in reserve. All right, I'm now going to jump into each district. Some of them will be able to fly through because there will be no proposed changes. But starting off with Bristol, the proposal is to unfund 2 projects, one in Washington County, one in Abingdon County, in favor of funding a regionally significant project. And this project, the French Moore Boulevard, is able to combine a project from round 5. That was the Cook Street extension. So this is making a project that works together with a project that was already funded. There will be efficiencies in that, with being able to phase that together instead of at 2 separate times. So this is completing a major package for the Bristol district. In Culpeper, there are no recommended revisions to the round 6 scenarios. They will be holding their money in reserve. Same for Fredericksburg. The additional money will be held in reserve. In Hampton Roads, the proposal is to unfund 1 project and fund another project. They are going to fund a R-Cut project by Northampton County, and it is next in the funding line, so they're able to use the remaining dollars that they had to fund a $6.8 million project. In Lynchburg, there are no changes to the recommended scenario, but they are using some of that money to cover previous DGP increase like we discussed in Culpeper and Stanton, very similar situation. But they are not adding or unfunding any projects in the Lynchburg district. Northern Virginia. There are going to be unfunding 2 projects. This is where we're going to bring into play the Locally Sustained Performance Program, LSPP. We talked about that a little bit when we were going through a review, that we would bring locality delivery performance to the table when we talk about consensus scenario with the board members. And so this is the district that it has come into play. So the first project that is getting unfunded is in Alexandria, and that is due to the applicant's performance not improving, and they are on the LSPP. Another project that is getting unfunded is Cascades Parkway in Loudoun County. The applicant has improved in their performance, and they have requested a swap. So where VDOT is going to come into play here is actually administering the project. So they're going to help see that over the line with that applicant since they are improving. This project that they're funding, the Route 15 at Braddock Road Roundabout, is able to take advantage of a huge amount of leverage, $32.4 million in applicant leverage, and they're only requesting $14.5 million. It scored very similarly to the project above it in Loudoun County. They were very close, within 0.02 smart scale points. And the project, again, will be administered by VDOT, so that will be a partnership as they move forward.
I think that's an important thing that they're doing there. As you know, we've had localities that have had difficulty. And listen, Alexandria is not the only one. They've had difficulty across the state getting things finished. Sometimes you find them biting off more than they can chew, and then they're just not able to do it. And so, you know, we started to have some accountability there. And part of the accountability goes to their performance. And if they're not performing well, then we have an ability to say, hey, we're not going to give you more money until your performance improves. And so in this case, that's what's going on here. And Loudoun County is not where we want them to be yet, but they're on the right track. And so we're going to help them. And we'll do the same thing with Alexandria, hopefully, in the future. As they move back there, we've seen that in Charlottesville, and we've seen some in Virginia. We've seen it all over the state, right? And so this is a good way to say, hey, we're going to work with you, but you got to perform. You got to be accountable. And so that's what we're doing here. Mr. Gribben.
Yeah, Mr. Secretary, I just want to echo your comments about how important it is for there to be accountability in this process, in this program. Talking to the commissioner earlier this morning, we're having the same struggles with MBTA, where money's going to communities are struggling getting to deploy that. I think having accountability is key. I also want to thank VDOT and the team for working with Loudoun County to help them get over the hump so we can get one of these projects up and going. So it's a really good combination of being accountable, but also being flexible and working with counties that are trying hard and are mostly getting there.
There's some carrots in there is the point, right? It's not all cutting you off. We're trying to help here. We want to get you there because it doesn't do us any good if you don't get there, right? And so that's what's going on here, and I think you've hit the right mark.
Richmond District. In this district, there was $22.2 million remaining in the district for allocation. So in this district, we will be adding 2 projects. The first is in Powhatan County, and that does take advantage of, again, a pretty high leverage. I think there's over $6 million leverage for this project on a $3.6 million request, and it's a safety project. The second project that's being added is in New Kent County. Is Exit 211 Interchange Improvement Projects. It's for a diverging diamond interchange project. This will be funded to a revised request amount of $18.2 million. It's reduced due to leverage from external partners. A lot of work was done there to bring more money to the table. And this project represents a major economic development near the interchange, and we're able to fund it through the remaining DGP. In Salem, there are no proposed changes. And then last but not least is Stanton District. They're unfunding a small $2.6 million project in Waynesboro in favor of funding a safety focus project at US 50 and Hayfield Road for $8 million. And that is next in line that could be fully funded. So they had a lot of money remaining on the table and were able to utilize that to fund an additional project. So with that, this is a representation of the consensus scenario. Step 3 is what we call the consensus scenario step, and this is a reflection of the changes that I just presented. Everything is summarized here with the amount that we were able to allocate through the consensus scenario. It got us over the 1 billion line. At staff recommended, we were slightly under 1 billion. But again, we have 53 projects that are recommended for funding, and it's all reflected in this summary, and all of the money that is being allocated is DGP. So like I mentioned before, I'll be back tomorrow to have you all vote on the resolution for the consensus scenario so that it can be adopted into the formal 6-year improvement program. And then in June, that will be the adoption in the formal program in June. So with that, I will take any questions.
Mr. Secretary, I just wanted to take a minute to thank Brooke as the OIP program manager on working us through the smart scale process this year. Tremendous thanks to the commissioner and director and their staff. You'd be amazed at the amount of people time that go into this process. And certainly I need to thank all of you, the board members, that put your time and attention into this as we work through round 6 of this scoring process that I think is serving the department and serving the Commonwealth well and helping us pick good projects to utilize our scarce and transportation funds. So, thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Are there any questions? I've got some comments to make as well, but are there any questions? Dr. Smoot.
Mr. Secretary, as we all know, there were 4 districts that did not receive any funding from the statewide pot. And that's just a statement of fact, and I'm fully in favor of getting on with where we're going with this. However, I think that you have to draw several conclusions from this, or a combination of several conclusions. One was that these 4 districts, and mine was one of them, do not have needs that rise to the level of need that measures funding from the statewide pot. They just don't have the need. Another conclusion would be that the funding formula does not appropriately measure the needs within these 4 districts. And another conclusion might be, and it can be a combination of all of these, that the 4 districts did not appropriately put forth their level of need in their smart scale submission. Now, that's all, in my view, water over the dam. But looking ahead to round 7, which we're not doing today, or tomorrow, fortunately, I think we need to keep these perspectives before us and see what, if any, changes we need to make in round 7 that would perhaps produce a different result. But I think this has gone well, and appreciate all the work that's been done on it. And I just think we need to keep this in mind for future reference.
Anybody else? You're stealing some of my thunder.
Sorry.
Listen, it's been a long 2 years. I will tell you that. We spent a tremendous amount of time just sort of educating ourselves. We've had lots of transition during the last couple of years, but educating ourselves on how this works, trying to understand 5 rounds of results and sort of what they meant and how we could make the system better. We literally worked for over a year on that and came up with where we are today. And so let me give you a couple thoughts, and some of it ties into what Dr. Smoot just said. The first thing I would say is what Deputy Lawson said was, thanks to the people who did all the work that we were making jump through all the hoops that we made them jump through. And I think we're all better off for that. And so I encourage us to continue to do that. But there was a lot of machinations and a lot of work by a lot of people. And so to Brooke and the whole team, I wanted to thank you again for all that work. You know, we've heard, it's always interesting, and I've been part of a lot of rounds so far, and it's always interesting when you get the results, because, you know, whoever the odd man or odd person out, if you will, always wants to change how it works, right? And I understand that. Two things well, one thing I would note, and I've been very clear about this since I've been here, and I'm really pleased to see that we're following that course. If we're monkeying with this, with the results a lot, we don't have a program, right? We just don't have a program. And you can see, I guess it was 3 or 4 districts didn't do anything different. And the rest basically took money that they had and deployed it, right? And that's a good thing. There was a little bit of swapping, not a lot, but a little bit, and I think that's a good thing. And so I salute all the members of the board who worked on this and the time that they put in to make sure that we got a good answer. And if you'd seen 20 or 30 changes here, we would be in trouble, right? We just would. Having said that, back to the point, there's lots of concern, you know, by lots of people. Fairfax has recently sort of beat that drum a little bit up in Northern Virginia, and we've seen it from other folks. And, you know, at the end of the day, we just want to get it right. And of course, there's no right. There's no 100% right. It's a judgment system, right? We're judging how these projects return value to the Commonwealth. But I would tell you that we have to hold the line on the process, because the process is really good, right? It's not perfect, but going back to sort of where we're selecting these things and trying to figure it all out without the benefit of this kind of process would not be a good place to be. And so I would encourage us, just like we've done in the past, and we will do this, we'll dig in and start analysis again on things that have been brought up. And, you know, we changed, not only do we change sort of a little bit of the weighting, but we changed the 3 steps into 2 steps and all that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, what we have here is we say, okay, district, you're going to get a certain amount of money, and you're going to compete amongst yourselves for that, and that's a big piece of it. But then we're going to look at major statewide impacts, HPP, and Dr. Smoot said there were some that didn't get any. And that's not supposed to be everybody gets some. That's supposed to be major statewide impacts. And maybe the scoring's right and maybe the scoring's not, but I think the process is right. I think the concept is right. And so our job would be to help make sure that the scoring intricacies work well. And I think generally they do, but it does beg for us, Dr. Smoot and others. We've had conversations, and Ms. Sellers has had some intriguing thoughts, seriously, on a couple of elements that made me think a lot. And so we needed to, immediately when this is over, start digging in again, because this board will be faced with, in another year, we're going to be right back in it. And so we wouldn't want to wait on that until the next administration. We want to get busy now, and we'll do that. So we'll continue to solicit your input and try to grind through any changes you may want to make for the next round, which won't happen until next year. But I think we're in a decent place, but I do think it calls for us to look at some things and to understand it. At the end of the day, listen, you know, we were talking to one of our constituents that had a $250 million project in the pot. We have less than 1.1 billion statewide. You know, one project, you know, there's just not money for those, right? And you know, the cost is so high that it really gets hard. And so you know, there needs to be thoughtfulness about how those things happen as well. But in any case, I think it was a good round. I think the board has done a great job. I think the staff has done a great job. But I 100% agree with the comments that Dr. Smoot has so said so well, which is we need to continuously improve. And that requires us to look at this and sort of, and listen, one round, as you know, this is an intricate process. And one round, it depends on what comes in the top as to what comes out the bottom. So one round you can't compare to the next. It's not comparable. You can't compare them. And this scoring system with a bunch of different projects is going to give you a different answer. And so it's not so easy to just look at one round and say, well, it did this or it did that. It just isn't. So we've employed some pretty smart people that have done some pretty serious analysis over time, and we'll continue to do that. And I'm pleased as to where we are, but I think we can continue to try to get better. So, any other comments or questions? Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
Yeah.
The next item is item number 4. Now, the director of the DRPT is in charge of public transportation and buses and trains, and she didn't make the bus this morning. She was doing some work in the other lobby. Ms. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for highlighting that
I'm so
point.
sorry, but I couldn't help myself.
I'm never going to live it down. That's okay. Good morning, everybody. I don't like to walk everyone through the entire report that you have in your packet. You can thank me for that later. It gives you all the updates of all the busy work we've been doing. But in light of the Secretary's earlier comments about making transit as efficient as possible, I do just want to give a really quick update on our department's efforts in our review of our merit program. You may remember merit stands for making efficient and responsible investments in transit. And it is DRPT's SMART scale, essentially. It's how we score and prioritize transit projects that come through our annual application round. We are statutorily required to review at least the operating assistance portion of that program every 3 years. And so that's what we're doing. We're doing a little more comprehensive review. We're looking at capital as well. We met with the subcommittee here, a transit and rail subcommittee, back in April. We have since had 2 meetings with TSDAC, the Transit Service Delivery Advisory Committee, which Dr. Smoot sits on, thankfully. He can help be our liaison to bring information back and forth, and we do plan to hold another subcommittee meeting in June or July. We are in the process of working with Kimley Horn, a consultant, to help us go through a deep analysis of how to make this program more efficient. We're specifically looking at some ways to adjust the weight of our sizing metrics and emphasize our performance metrics. We have found in this particular SIP that there's some unpredictability in our sizing metric, especially as it relies heavily on costs. So if an agency's costs go down, it doesn't always reward them with more money. Sometimes it disincentivizes that efficiency. So I just wanted to kind of provide that update, obviously, and in an effort to be transparent and let you know what you'll be hearing as we come back to you. This will be a process that will go through the end of 2025, probably, because there's a public comment period required once we have draft recommendations for policy changes in this program. But we look forward to bringing that information to you in the coming months.
Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Director. Appreciate it very much. Mr. Commissioner.
Mr. Secretary, members of the board, I don't have any comments for you this morning other than this afternoon. Chris Winstead and his team are definitely going to give a great tour of the district or a limited tour of the district here in Danville with Linda Green's help, and look forward to your participation this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Any comments for the commissioner or questions? Thank you. I don't really have much to add other than again to thank our colleague Linda Green and all the folks that have welcomed us to this great community. I see our MVTC folks skedaddled out of here. I was hoping to lock them down for a while and get them de-stressed a little bit. You know, you talked about this great job incubator here. And as you know, I live in a part of the world where the people that use those kinds of services are screaming for people, right? The sort of stuff the Navy's doing here, the welding training, all this kind of training. I mean, there's just people that are screaming to hire these people. So there's a great opportunity here. And I know we want to keep some of that business here, Ms. Green, but there's also a great opportunity to export some of those folks and get them at other places in Virginia that have some great jobs. And so it's just great to see this part of the world thrive. We got an opportunity to tour the casino last night. I will tell people, I made my colleagues walk through it that were with us at dinner. We had dinner there last night at the restaurant, but we walked through it just because I wanted to see sort of what it looked like, and it's a heck of an establishment. And it's been a great engine, I think, for this community, and there's lots of good stuff going on here. And hear your city manager, he's excited, I know, so we're looking forward to our tour this afternoon and seeing more of your community.
Something I failed to say earlier is that our elected officials sent regrets. We collided with the Tobacco Commission meeting in Bristol, and they had some votes there, so I should have said that earlier.
The Tobacco Commission that helped fund this place, right? That group with the group with the money, right?
It all makes a difference.
Yes.
This group's made a huge difference.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And they're good. They're good folks. I know that my colleague, Secretary Segura, and others are down here with the commission, and I think they'll be here through Wednesday down in Bristol. So they do really important work and really good work. So you got to go where you need to go. So Carol, what's our schedule look like?
We are scheduled to have one. Can't guarantee. After lunch, we're going to take a group photo to commemorate our lovely visit here up on the stairs. And we are going to board the bus today for a portion of our tour. The bus will bring us back to the hotel later on this afternoon where we can change and get ready for the evening events.
So lunch is at noon, on the bus by 1 out front, and we'll be back at the hotel, you think?
2:30, 2:45, depending on how things go, how quickly we get through everything.
So let's say 3 o'clock. Back to work, and then our next assignment is,
We need to reboard the bus at 3:30 to make sure we get to the raceway by 4 o'clock.
so you got a half an hour to work. Back on the bus by 3:30. And then what time, we go to the raceway?
Yes, we're going to go to the raceway, and we're going to have a raceway.
Is it true that Ms. Green is driving a race car?
I can neither confirm nor deny. You have to be there to see.
Okay. So we're going to be there 4 o'clock or so.
4 o'clock, have a tour. There's going to be an opportunity for those that want to do Patriot laps around the raceway, and then we'll have a reception about 6-ish, followed by dinner a little bit after 7:15 or so,
have dinner at the raceway, and then we will come back to the hotel by bus.
And then the action meeting starts at 8:30 tomorrow morning.
The action meeting starts at 8:30 tomorrow morning. There will be bus transportation tomorrow. Everybody will make their own way to the Institute tomorrow morning.
The institute,
That's
institute.
This institute, yes, that's what we've been calling it.
There'll be transportation of some sort, because we're not walking here. All right, any questions?
May we leave our iPads here, or should we take them with us?
All right, anything else? All right, this workshop meeting is adjourned.